That's how she fit her entire fist on top of the. Anyway, from there we'll go ahead and take a look at today, Tuesday, January 21st. Hopefully you guys had a good weekend. Welcome back. We'll continue with our Greek words, Greek mythology. Plugging in the words, I'm not quite sure how far we got with you guys, so we'll zip right along and sort of see where they go into from there. Those of you who have the words already placed, I'll help you out. If you've placed the words, you're welcome to go ahead and start writing the story while we're going through and talking, because I will be working in a wee bit of babbling today. Let's see. We have chaos. Which category did chaos go in? Works for me. Because what was chaos? It was a
living thing and other stuff.
It was the thing that made it.
The swirling ball of nothing. It was basically pudding, and eventually it splits to form the other gods and things like that. So that's why it can go in multiple different categories. And what category does Kronos go in?
Gods.
Nice one. Gods. Gods is the one that's back over here behind Andrew. The guy looks like he's doing a little bit of golfing up there. So that would be Kronos. And we'll get to the fun story of him probably by Friday, fingers crossed. Hades! What category does Hades go in? Gods and places. Both gods and places. Once again, he's the one back over here. It looks all dark and gothy, wearing his hooded sweatshirt, and doesn't do a whole lot of talking. But it's also the name of the place where he lives. And so that's also a picture of Hades in the background. That is all very haterific back there. Hades gonna Hades. And so that was with that. The problem with Hades is that he would show up if you said his name or the name of the place where he lived, so people would never say the name of the place where he lived. Instead, what they call the place where he lived? Underworld. And that's what brings in places for our underworld. And we'll get to that one. And then we get reminded of the fact that last week I mentioned that I won't be calling on you when you raise your hand. You have to just sit there and look grumpy for a long time until the end of class. It allows us to bond. It's wonderful for me. Not so much for you. And then for Titans. Where do we put Titans? Gods, because all the Titans are the gods. The gods are Titans. So all of the posters that you see around there, every single one of them is going to be a god or a Titan. Except for this guy. Come here, magic man. This guy. Heracles, he was only half god. And we'll talk about him being a half god. But all the other ones in the posters are all god. Mercurial. Did we get to that one yet? That's where we stopped. Alright. So for Mercurial, let's go with, raise your hand for gods, places, things, other stuff. Mercurial, other stuff. It's just a word that comes from Greek mythology. It actually comes from Hermes, whose Roman name was Mercury, and he was the god of speed. And Mercurial is a scientific word, which means to change quickly, to go from one state to another. For those of you who have ever seen someone drop a Mentos into a Diet Coke, you have seen a Mercurial reaction, where it goes, normal, plop. That was Mercurial. That was a fast change. So a Mercurial reaction is not like where it goes, bubble, bubble, watch out. It's where it goes from drop to hit the deck in a split second. Olympians. Gods, places, things, other stuff.
Gods.
Definitely seem confused on that one. Olympians are gods. They're the Titans that sat on Mount Olympus. All of the big ones you see, I have the big posters around the room. There's 6 over there, and then there's the 6 big posters here. Those are all Olympians. The posters that are back here on this wall, most of those are Olympians, except for Hestia. She's not an Olympian. And then the ones over here are not Olympians. But most of them are going to be Olympians. And so it's just someone that sits on Mount Olympus.
I thought it was someone that was in the Olympics.
It is. That was named after the... Well, we'll get to that story. Atlas. For Atlas, if you guys go gods, places, things, other stuff. Answer is God and thing. Atlas was the big, hunky, strong dude that you see holding the world on top of his back. That was Atlas. It was a punishment that he had to undergo for a bad choice he made. And then later on, years later, when they created a book of maps, they went ahead and named the book of maps after the guy Atlas, because he was standing on top of a mountain holding the sky.
Mr. Brovicast, you just said he was holding the world on his back.
He was holding the sky on his back, but it's really hard to draw a picture of someone holding the sky, because the sky is invisible, and you just like goofy. You're just like, Looks like you're trying to fly. So when the artist drew pictures of him, they switched it and put the world on his back. But you can't have the world on your back, because then what would you stand on? So that's why he was standing on the world, holding the sky.
How do you hold this guy?
Don't worry, it's a story we'll get to later on. So that would be Atlas. I know, don't you hate me not calling on you guys? Next up, sticks. And so with sticks, you go with gods, places, things, other stuff. Sticks is both God and place. It started off as a person, a god, a titan, S-T-Y-X. And then eventually Styx got turned into a river. Now, it's up to you whether you count river as a place or a thing or another stuff. That's sort of personal opinion. But back over here in the picture, once again, that's the river Styx right there next to Hades, because it was in the underworld. Now, how did it happen? It's the story we'll get to. It started off, she was a mean, evil, bitter, angry girl, and then she did something really nice for Zeus, so Zeus granted her one wish, and he's like, what do you want? She's like, I want to be a river. He's like, no, seriously, what do you want? She's like, a river. He's like, oh, okay. And so she became a river. But because she was such a horrible person, well, what do you guys know about the river Styx? What happens if you get in the river Styx?
Die.
Die. It was supposed to be deadly, ascetic, and nasty. And it's because of her horrible personality, because she was such a horrible person, that when she became a river, the river became horrible and nasty and acidic. And so it would melt people, much like her words would do when she was alive. And that's the river Styx. Scythe! And you guys go with gods, places, things, other stuff. Scythe is a thing. It's one I'm going to bring in later this week. The scythe is, you'll see also with the Grim Reaper, where it's the stick that has the curvy blade that comes off of it. The Grim Reaper actually uses a sickle, which is different because it has a handle on the blade. A scythe doesn't have a handle on it, but it doesn't matter too much. And so the scythe just has the big blade. They use it to chop down the wheat and the corn. It was before we had tractors and things like that. Once again, over here, the picture of Kronos, he's got one up there above him, up there in the picture too. And that was what they would go around and use. And I'll bring one in for the story that we'll get to coming up later this week. So many questions, and so you may not call on you. What's up?
I see.
There's no student teacher in here.
But you said there was.
She comes in on Fridays.
They told us all.
Yeah. She doesn't start till February, so we have time. She was just coming in to get to meet you guys. Regularly. It'd be really boring if she had to sit in my class every day and watch me
Yes,
go.
it would.
It's an important question.
What?
I was confused. You said Hades was a place. Why isn't that named a place?
Because it only, for some reason, just went into one.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Gaea. G-A-E-A, not pronounced Gaea, even though I'm sure that makes you giggle. It was pronounced Gaea. And Gaea, raise your hand for gods, places, things, other stuff. Gaea goes in both gods and places. Gaea is Mother Earth. On the family tree, you'll see that she came from Chaos. Chaos created her and her husband. And so Gaea was both a place, because she's the earth, but she was also a god, because she talks and does things. She doesn't run around, because she was the earth, but she definitely plays a big role coming up. Then we'll get to the next one, pronounced Uranus, not Uranus. That makes you let you giggle also. And I've come to accept that. I teach 7th graders a long time ago. Uranus! Raise your hand for gods, places, things, other stuff. Uranus, just like Gaea, because they're husband and wife, was both a god and a place. He was Father Sky. He was what the sky was, but he was also a god and could talk and move and things like that. So because he was both at the same time. Now, Gaea and Uranus, I fully understand. I teach 7th grade, and to make your lives complete, you'll probably refer to them not by their names, Gaea and Uranus, but by their giggle names, Gaea and Uranus. I've come to terms with it. Just realized that the actual pronunciations were different, but that's the least of my issues. Next up, Nike. Now you guys say gods, places, things, other stuff. Nike was a god.
I thought it was a shoe.
It is both now, but Nike, if you look on the white sheet that doesn't have the family tree, you'll see Nike on there. Nike was one of the gods of victory. If you wanted to win something, you would pray to Nike. And so she was the god of victory. So in the 1970s, when a shoe company came out and they wanted you to say, wear our shoes and you'll always win, they named their shoe company after this god of victory. Plus, Nike was the only god to have wings. All the other gods did not. Hermes had wings on his feet, but Nike actually had wings, like an angel. So because of that, when Nike, the shoe company, came out, they wanted to symbolize those wings. So what is the symbol for Nike?
Swoosh.
That swoosh is supposed to be a wing as it swoops forward, rushing you on. It was supposed to be the idea of helping you propel yourself to victory. And that was why they came up with the swoosh symbol and the Nike name.
What about
Really?
Cupid?
You researched it.
Right.
That's so
Not
good.
Cupid has wings.
Right, still me teaching. Trident, our next one. And we'll go for gods, places, things, other stuff. And trident is a thing. It's the 3 pokey stick that Poseidon uses, the guy that's over here. There's your 3 pokey stick. And then it's also back over here. Kind of hard to see it in that picture. You got his 3 pokey stick. And it's the same thing right here with this 3 pokey stick. So it allowed him to cook multiple hot dogs at one time. He was great at parties. It also allowed him to control water, which is probably the more important.
There you go.
Although his friends liked it for the parties, but to each their own.
Ching.
I know. It's like each one of you keeps coming up with questions and giving me a chance to ignore you. Sacrifices! Howdy face. Gods, places, things, other stuff. Could be either one. I went for other stuff as far as sacrifice. And we're going to get into, you did have to sacrifice to the Greek gods. You didn't sacrifice people, though. That was the Aztecs and the Mayans and the stabbing and the harp and the thumpa. The Greeks believed in a different kind of sacrifice. But if you didn't sacrifice to them, you definitely made them grumpy and bad things happen. Cyclops. And you guys go with gods, places, things, other stuff. Cyclops. I put them in other stuff, but you could put them in gods. I could see them in either one. They were older than the Titans, and they technically are a god. They're just not really always thought of as a god. But the Cyclops could definitely qualify in that area. Now, the Cyclops looked a little different than us, aside from the fact that they were really big. What is it the Cyclops only had one of? One eyeball. Which is what in Greek or Latin, what Cyclops means, does not mean one-eyed. The CYCL, you should recognize that word.
Circle.
Close.
Cycle.
Cycle, which comes from circle. And then what's a cycle?
Spinning pattern and
Yeah,
stuff.
like a bicycle, tricycle, a cycle, a thing that goes in a circle. And then the ops, OPS, you guys have gone probably up to an optometrist, which comes from ops. Nice one. Eye doctor. So to put that together, Cyclops means
Swirly eye.
one-eyed. Or sorry, not one-eyed, means wheel-eyed. Because they believe that it looked like they someone had taken a giant wagon wheel and gone whack in the middle of their forehead. So it looked like they had a giant wheel in the middle of their head. So they were called the wheel-eyed.
That'd be
Not
also.
one-eyed. That'd be a uniops. But Cyclops just means wheel. Weird connection to make.
I want to be a cyclops.
Olympus.
Excellent.
How do you guys say Olympus goes in gods, places, things, other stuff? It was a place. Olympus was up on top of a mountain called Mount Olympus. It was a palace. There were thrones there. You guys know how many thrones were in Mount Olympus?
12.
That's why there's 12 big posters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 posters, 12 Olympians. There's a reason they match. And so those were the Olympians up on Mount Olympus. Prometheus. Gods, place, thing, other stuff. Prometheus was a god. One of, not the original, but one of the sons of the original gods. And he had the superpower to be able to see into the future. And we'll get into him, and he can sit there and go, no, 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 no. Ooh, don't eat the tacos. He can see in the future, he can see stuff like that. Iris. I-R-I-S. God, place, thing, other stuff. Iris would be both god and thing. So Iris was one of the rainbow goddesses, and we'll get to her story here soon. And also, we named part of our body after her because of the rainbow goddess. And we'll get to that.
Hi.
And the last one, Clotho. God, place, thing, other stuff. Clotho was a god. She was one of the oldest gods. Her and her sisters, Lachesis and Atropos, were the three fates. The ones who cut the string that made people come into life and stuff like that. There's these three witch sisters who lived up in a cave. And we'll get to them, and those were the three fates. So now, we've placed all the words. The only thing you have left to do is write your 5-sentence story using the 10 words. But now we're going to jump to more of the fun learning stuff. That's where the 2 handouts come in. I'm going to have you make sure you have those. We're going to start filling stuff in. Yes, dear?
Are we sharing this room?
Nope. Kind of ran out of time with the whole get to sleep in 2 hours thing. With the blue sheet, what's going to happen is with Greek mythology, I'm not going to have a whole lot of stories to hand out for you to read. I do Greek mythology very similar to how they did Greek mythology back in the day, which was through the use of oral tradition. What's oral tradition?
Talking.
Exactly. I will be passing stories down to you orally, which means you have to pay attention in class. If you miss one, means if you're not here one day because you get sick, you're going to have to go online and watch it. Because if not, I'm not going to have a paper copy to give you. Just like if you were gone the day they talked through oral tradition, then you wouldn't have it then. To help you out, the blue sheet will be your guide. As I'm going through, you're going to find the questions on here and answer them. You get to use this on the quizzes, tests, and things like that. So if you lose this, you have to start all over again because it is going to be an assignment that comes to you. So blue sheet, make sure that you go through. We're going to do the first little bit together where it says the word, the God, and then the definition of the word. We're going to go through and have you guys figure out where each of those words come from.
Mr. Brovey, I probably know that.
That's where the white sheet comes in. You can look at the white sheet and you're going to find a connection to either. Now, use both the Greek and the Roman names. And you'll see on not the family tree, but the other side, where it has a list of all the gods, it also will list the Roman names. The Roman name is the same thing as the Greek name. It just means a different culture that talks about it. Tomorrow we'll pick up and perfect begin the Greek words. Plus, what comes due tomorrow? Fable create. If you're missing my Fable homework, you'll be standing.